So, welcome back once again, everybody, to another episode of QuattroQuattroDos. Once again, it's your boy Christian, and today I have a very, very special guest. That, funny enough, I didn't even ask him. I know what his name is, but I didn't even ask him if I should call him Gabriel or Gabe or whatever his preferred names is. But
Whatever you like, whatever's easiest.
yeah. So we'll go with Gabe. Just because of we're the Americanized versions of Argentinians a little bit. So yeah, I got Gabe on. Gabe is actually the one of the podcast hosts of Boca in English. So basically, a podcast dedicated to the greatest club in the entire world. To say the least.
Absolutely.
But yeah, what's up, Gabe? How you doing, man?
What's going on, man? It's a pleasure. It's been a long time coming. We've been planning this for a couple of weeks, so it's nice to be on. This is actually my first podcast of this year. I haven't recorded a podcast on my own in a couple of months, so this is exciting.
There you go.
Get it back in the groove of things.
Let's go. Hopefully, this one will inspire you guys to get back on it. Because I know. So let me just go ahead and ask you off the bat about the podcast, and then we can just talk about your life and growing up and all that stuff. But how did the podcast get started? Because I know you have a couple of guys on there, and they are very Argentinian.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more than I am. So the podcast started, well, let me start with the account first. The account I started in February of 2018, February 13, I think it was, the day before Valentine's Day, or the day after Valentine's Day, I think it was, one of the two, of 2018. Because I figured, there was a bunch of club accounts in English dedicated to different clubs in Argentina. I was like, how come there's not one for Boca? I speak Spanish very well, fluently, and I don't really need an English account. But I figured, why wouldn't there be one so I can connect with, Boca fans who also speak English? And one day I said to myself, you know what, I'm just going to start it on my own. And I went ahead and did it. And it kind of took off from there. And then with the whole Copa Libertadores final in 2018, there was no way I couldn't start a podcast. That people really wanted it, that people wanted more insight, more in-depth talk about, games and player reviews and whatnot. And I said, you know what, this is the perfect time. I have to take the opportunity, considering such a massive sporting event that final was, go ahead and start a podcast. So I did it, and it took off from there.
And who are the other two guys that you have on here and there?
I have a couple of guys, Francisco, who lives in Argentina. I have Nico Cantor also, who comes on periodically. You probably know him from Univision and CBS. He's a really, really nice guy, but he comes on periodically here and there. And I have Facundo Salazar, who lives in Miami, Florida. He's also born and raised in Argentina. And I know I already mentioned Francisco. Francisco is a journalist. It's awesome to have him. Francisco is a journalist in Argentina, and he does motorsport. But he's also now commentating on Primera División Argentine, First Division Soccer for Paramount Plus in English too. So
hey,
those two guys are with me every week, and then Nico comes around, here and there.
Tell Nico I send him a DM, just he can get back at, no, but no pressure, Nico, if you're listening. Yeah.
There's another Nico too. There's another Nico too, who isn't part of the podcast, but he does more of behind the scenes. I don't know if you remember the whole Adidas event that they did at the club when they were releasing the jersey and all that. And we filmed a couple of videos around the stadium and in the museum. This other Nico was behind the cameras. He was recording, so he did a phenomenal job over there. He's really good too. So we have a good crew.
We have a good team. That's badass.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and basically, like I was telling you earlier, the reason I want to talk to you is because I wanted to get all these soccer. I think the soccer community in the United States as a whole has been growing a lot, especially in this last few years. And with the World Cup coming, I think it's going to get a lot bigger, and then it's just going to boom. So I just wanted to see how people are doing in other cities. I know you guys, well, you personally, you're in New York, and I just kind of, let me go ahead and touch, on your childhood and stuff like that. And then we can just talk about New York City, especially you guys have a team that just won a championship in the MLS and stuff like that. I don't know if you're a Red Bulls fan or an NYC fan. I don't know, but, we'll get to that. But just tell me a little bit, about your childhood. How did you become a Boca fan? How did that all started? I love stories.
Through family. My dad, my uncle, my grandfather, both of my grandfathers. One I wasn't able to meet, but the majority of my family is all Boca supporters. And of course, being born in New York and within a year moving to Argentina and growing up a couple of years over there, they just sort of cemented in me. And then planted in me that Boca is the team to go with, and that's the team that I grew up watching with my older brother. I would say like a good 60 to 70% are all Boqueros, majority Boca supporters. A couple of River fans here and there, unfortunately, and I have a younger brother who's also a San Lorenzo fan. Unfortunately for him.
Oh damn!
So
the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, absolutely. My
yeah.
grandma is a San Lorenzo fan and sort of pushed him to go that way, unfortunately. So what can you do? We lost one.
Sometimes, yes, you win some, you lose some, huh? Yeah, well, I just kind of wanted to share also I guess a little bit of mine, because obviously I'm a Boca fan because of my dad, right? But it's funny because his dad, he's a like a diehard River Plate fan, which blows my mind because my dad is the firstborn, right? So imagine like that's just like a dagger to the heart, like your firstborn child, especially in Argentinian culture, like your boy, being
I couldn't imagine.
Oh,
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I feel sorry for the dude every time I see him. Like he doesn't know, but I'm like, sorry, dude. Like, but basically, my dad became a Boca fan because of his grandfather from his mom's side. The dude was like 1,000 years old, and he was like super like people, typical Argentinians, like you sit on that seat, and like don't talk, don't move, cábalas like all over the place and stuff like that. And it was just crazy. And then like to see my dad also like be kind of weird like that also, he like get mad and stuff like that. And I remember like watching Copa Libertadores games and kind of being the same way. But I was gonna ask you, do you have any like memory? Like, because I have you're about my age, right? And I have a lot of memories like being in the United States and watching like games like Copa Libertadores games and like younger years, and when like the whole it was like a family event here in my house because my mom, my dad, my brothers, we would all sit like a Tuesday, Wednesday night and just kind of eat empanadas and watch a game type thing. Do you have any like stories like that you can share?
Oh yeah, of course, dozens. But I think one of the first that come to mind is 2007 Libertadores. I don't, obviously, I'm not going to say for whatever reason, obviously because we won the Copa Libertadores. I remember it so vividly. I was 12, and I just remember sitting in my living room. It was me, my older brother, my mom, and my grandmother. My mom and my grandmother are both San Lorenzo fans, so they wanted to watch the game as well. They were obviously cheering for Boca, not only for me and my brother, but because it was against Brazil. That's sort of the way they see it. But I just remember that night so vividly in a dark room, just cheering Boca on, especially that second leg, a phenomenal performance from Riquelme. Obviously, he played a phenomenal Copa Libertadores. But I just remember that day so vividly, so like as if it was yesterday. I just turned 27. So it was like 13 years ago now, So yeah, there's definitely a bunch of nights like that.
Is that the game against Gremio?
Yeah, the second leg, it was the second leg against Gremio, the 2-0, the long strike from Riquelme, and the second goal was sort of a tap-in also from Riquelme. We won 2-0. And then Palermo missed a penalty towards the end. It could have been 3-0 in the second leg. It ended up being 5-0 aggregate.
It's funny because I just came across and I was scrolling through Instagram not too long ago, and they were like, name like a memory, like a goal that you vividly remember, and all I remember is that the blue and yellow jersey with the yellow pants and the yellow socks, and I was like, God, that's an ugly ass combination.
Do you remember the backstory behind that? So we went to Brazil, if I remember correctly. We went to Brazil with the blue shorts, and the administrator, the federation, the governor said you can't use the blue shorts, too similar to Gremio. And apparently they had to send a helicopter back to Buenos Aires to get the yellow shorts. It was like, I think the day before, 2 days before the game, or the day of. I don't remember exactly. But they had to send a helicopter to go back to Buenos Aires and pick up the yellow shorts and bring them back to Brazil.
I didn't know.
Only in South America. In South America. Yeah, I remember. It was either, I think it was the day before. It was the day of or the day before, something like that. That's
crazy.
That the referee said, no, you can't use the blue shorts.
That's insane. Yeah, because I remember, and also I remember like specifically because I was sitting, so I had the TV in front of me, and I was sitting like to the left of the TV. So like the TV was to my left, right? And I just remember the first Riquelme goal, I guess it would be, where he gets the ball outside of the box, like on the side of the box. And I don't know why, because it's kind of stupid, but from the angle that I was in, when he he took one touch and then he hit the ball. And I started screaming like right, when he the ball left the foot. and like people looked at me for, because it's kind of bad luck to scream out goal before you actually score. But from the angle that I was at, which is kind of stupid because it's a TV, it's not 3D. It's not like, and I could just see the freaking goal like going clearly. So it's one of my biggest memories too. Like it's insane.
He sniped it. He sniped that ball. He hit it so clean. He opened his hips and just struck it really nice.
It's beautiful. But let me, I guess, let's move on a little bit. Because I've seen that you've been back to Argentina and you actually been to La Bombonera. That's like a dream of mine. I've never been, coming to the US when I was young. I've never been the chance to actually go back. But tell me some stories about, going into that magical place.
I think a lot of people ask me this question. The story that I always tell is probably my first game there, which was the 2018 Libertadores. It was the round of 16, I think it was, or the quarterfinal. I think it was round of 16. It was against Libertad. We won 2-0 in La Bombonera. It was a rainy day. Goals from Avila scored one, and Mauro Sarate, I think, scored the second. And the only thing I remember is obviously you have to be a socio to go in. And I went to Argentina with my girlfriend at the time, and she wasn't a socio. So I basically went to the game by myself. I didn't know anybody. I just went to the game by myself. And I remember I was sitting section L, which is right next to the pitch, right front row, basically. And Avila scored the first goal, and I started celebrating. And the people, it was like raining and stuff. It was cloudy, whatever. And everybody next to me just grabbed me, and we all celebrated the goal together. People that I hadn't said two words to, not even one word. And we all just started celebrating the goal together. And the same thing happened for the second goal. So it's crazy how, you don't know these people, but they're going to grab you, throw you, and just, all celebrate the goal together. It was pretty neat. It was a neat experience.
That's insane. Yeah. I mean, I go to the Dynamo games and stuff like that, here being from Houston and stuff like that. And it gets crazy, depending where you sit, depending what section, if you're going to be with, with the rowdy crowd, you're obviously going to get a little bit more rowdy. But yeah, I can just imagine, like just being in La Bombonera, like I don't know, it's something different. So moving on a little bit, kind of like to this age now. So how, like, because obviously when you get more, like when you become an adult, more mature and stuff like that, like for example, me, there was a section in my life where kind of like Boca kind of got out away from my radar just because, I was just getting older and, doing other things, doing that. Did you ever have that time maybe that you just kind of wavered off, or was like Boca always consistent in like your life like that?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
I think in the last 10 years, I probably haven't watched like 3 games. I've watched every single game for the most part, every single game. At least I do my best, but I can count on one hand the amount of games I've missed in the last 10, 15 years. Boca has always been a huge part of my life. Soccer as a whole has always been a huge part of, my family. We follow La Selección Argentina, obviously. I wasn't able to watch today's game because I was at this training. But just Sunday nights, it's kind of like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, in a typical American household. The equivalent at our house would be like Sunday night, soccer. We watch soccer all day, all the different games. Like I said, my mom's a San Lorenzo fan. My younger brother's a San Lorenzo fan. So they'll watch that game. But Sunday night, I'm always watching soccer, always watching Boca specifically, especially in the Copa Libertadores. Those are games I don't miss. Even with school, I have been able to not miss a game. With work, I've been able to not miss a game. Even if I have to watch them on my cell phone or whatever, or a computer, I've done a good job of keeping up with every game for the most part.
And like, for example, here in Houston, well, mostly all the Argentinian community I know is, because of my dad and his friends and, just kind of like people like that you get to know. And back in the day, when Clásicos came around, everybody used to get together and like River fans, Boca fans, obviously like probably in the same room, but very divided maybe. And there was a lot of people from, there's a lot of, we know a lot of Cordobeses, a lot of hinchas de Talleres and Belgrano, and they're basically neutrals, right? They make sure the peace stays. So we were able to find like a good community to like watch those big games if we had to, in New York, you being a New Yorker or from Long Island, how is there like maybe like an Argentinian community or like a community where you can maybe go catch a game and there's people around and stuff like that?
Definitely. Huge communities. Not exactly where I live. I'm about like an hour and a half from the city, but there's definitely communities in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens. There's a Boca restaurant. I don't know if you told me you've
Yeah, I've
never been
seen
to
it.
New York.
No, yeah.
There's a Boca Juniors restaurant in Queens, and they all get together. It's almost impossible to get in there to watch a game unless you know somebody. You're not going to get in.
Right.
That's a huge, community. Awesome time to watch a game there. And River fans also have their own spots too where they watch games. I think there's also in Independiente Peña. Every team, at least the bigger clubs, have sort of like a little group in New York. And for Boca, there's Manhattan Osurioro, which is a Peña. There's New Jersey at the Boca. So the Boca supporters in New Jersey, they have their own section. I've never been there, but they have this sort of indoor facility that they sort of turned into like a mini bombonera where they sell food, they watch the games. Even for Argentina, they all gather. It's actually pretty
Right.
neat. I want to go one day, but I haven't been able to. But exactly where I live, no, unless it's like a family friend coming over. No, not
Mhm.
really where I live. It's all in the city. You're from Houston. It's all city stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And being, being a big city, when everybody thinks like New York or that area, just think of fucking skyscrapers and just stuff like that. How is the soccer community as a whole? Like here in Houston, it's kind of, we do have the city component, but it's also like very spread out. Texas is very like there's a lot of land, right? So there's a
Yeah,
there's a lot of fields everywhere, a lot of pitches everywhere, and stuff like that. And there's big like community, like international communities, like yeah, obviously New York is probably the same, but you have your Africans, your Asians, like whatever it may be. A lot of English, like pub style, like that, where all those people
yeah,
gather to support their English clubs and stuff like that.
yeah.
How is it in New York? Did you grow up playing soccer and stuff like that?
Yeah, I grew up. I played travel soccer here in high school and stuff, but it's more so in the rural and urban areas, basically where I live in New York. But the soccer community is definitely growing here. Obviously, is bigger in the city. Whenever I'm in the city, even in Philadelphia, I was in Philadelphia last weekend, and I went to an Irish pub, and they had a little board written down of all the Premier League games that they were showing. I think Chelsea played Tottenham, and they had that written down. So in the Northeast, it's definitely growing. It's definitely growing. I'm starting to see more MLS jerseys. Even at the gym that I go to, I see Bayern Munich jerseys. I see jerseys of almost the biggest clubs in Europe. So it's definitely a sport that is growing. I can't speak so much for MLS. I don't keep up with MLS at all. I don't have a favorite MLS team. I have no idea who won the MLS Cup. You just told me a New York team won it. I had no idea.
Really? That's insane.
Yeah, that's how much I don't follow. I've tried to watch MLS. I just can't. I can't get into it. It's too. I don't want to use the word Americanized, but the structure isn't.
But it
You're
is.
like your traditional soccer, so it
Yeah.
doesn't really draw to me. I don't watch any MLS whatsoever.
Do
But
you
the sport as a whole is growing.
do you watch any other leagues?
Yeah, I watched the Premier League, La Liga. I used to when Messi was there, and I watched the French league, um,
The
the Serie A
crossover.
here and there. Yeah, exactly. I don't watch too much soccer that doesn't involve Boca. Usually, when I'm studying, I'll have a game on the background. Like now, we're recording, and I have Honduras, Canada in the background. So that's usually what I'll do. Anytime in my room, mostly studying, I'll have a game in the back. I'm not necessarily watching, just listening to it a little bit. But watch. I would say definitely. I do. I try to watch the Premier League when I can.
So, well, I was going to ask you MLS questions, but obviously, we we made that clear. But yeah, NY, like even though you said maybe now you started seeing maybe more jerseys and stuff like that, have you noticed like a bigger presence of the MLS teams in New York? Like
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
like a
Yeah.
sign or some shit, somewhere.
Yeah. No, I've definitely seen the jerseys. When I go into the city, you definitely do see them. You see NYCFC hats or whatever. So it is a sport that's growing. I don't think the only thing with NYCFC, I don't think they have their own stadium yet.
Nope,
They
they
still play
play
at
in
Yankee
Yankee
Stadium.
Stadium.
So I mean, that doesn't really help them out. The
Yeah.
closest thing I can tell you about the MLS is I went to Red Bull Arena and I saw Boca versus America in summer of 2019. I think it was. Yeah, summer of 2019.
Close enough.
The closest thing that I have to MLS soccer is going there to see Boca play.
That's cool, man.
Um, but apart from that, I don't know too much about MLS.
All
I don't
right,
know what
so
teams are good, what teams are bad. I know they're developing a lot of good players. I do know
yeah.
that they're coming up with some really good talent. The U.S. is.
Yeah, the good thing, well, I guess Red Bull, New York Red Bulls, which funny enough is not in New York, is in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I know that, well, the brand New York, the brand of Red Bulls, they have teams all over the world, so obviously they use that to like move players around and stuff like that. So they have been developing a lot of stuff, and actually Tati Castellanos, who was the main guy for New York FC, he might be going to River, so just in case.
Oh,
Yeah,
I did read about
that guy.
that. Yeah, he was one of their main strikers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
was goleador or something. I don't know. So
yeah.
after
I read that.
I'm so into like the west side of the league. With the league being divided in two and stuff like that, and having 1,000 teams in the league, it's kind of hard to keep up with everybody. But we try to keep up a little bit. That I wanted to ask you was basically, I think the question of the century, at least for Argentinians. This whole, obviously with the rivalry and everything that happens, but obviously everybody that I hear obviously has a weird opinion, and I know a lot of River fans, and I know a lot of Boca fans, and eventually I'll probably have some River fan to maybe ask a question on the podcast. But I want to get your position or your answer, because I feel like you've been a guy that, since you were a child, you've been following the team, and you probably have a bigger or a better explanation on your position, I guess. But which one is worse, in your opinion? Going to
Easy, easy,
should I
easy.
even ask the question? But go
Definitely
ahead.
being relegated is worse. And relegation in every country isn't the same. It has a special. I don't know if we want to say special, but it has a different taste in Argentina. I
Yeah.
mean, if we start to break it down, right? How much money did Boca win for getting to the Copa Libertadores final? Right, they probably got, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, $6 million just for playing that final. The amount of financial hard difficulty that River had to go through for being relegated, just the financial aspect I'm going to touch, is quite considerable. It's a lot. It's a lot. Playing a Libertadores final and losing it, to me, I mean, obviously you never want to lose it, even less to your rival. But it was one of those things where the rulings just changed and two teams from the same country could finally go to the final. We can very well see another Super Classico final in the near future. I really do think so. I don't know about this year. Boca's building a pretty good squad. So is River. But within the next 10 years, I can almost put all my life savings that we will see another Super Classico final. Hopefully, if not, within the next 15 years, it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen within our lifetime. Now, to see Boca relegated, I don't know if we're going to see that happen, because everything, the amount of things that have to go wrong for a club for that to happen, it takes years of poor performances for that to happen. It's going to be really, really hard. I mean, Boca itself to be relegated is nearly impossible. And just to see Boca go through all the difficulties that River went through and to be relegated again, it takes 3 years in Argentina with the relegation in promedios. It takes like 3 years of crappy results to be relegated.
Yeah,
That's
facts.
tough.
Yeah.
That's really, you're asking for a lot. A lot. I think it's a lot. We're going to see another final between Boca and River. Who's going to win it? I don't know. We may win it. We may lose it again. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a lot worse to be relegated. In terms of financial aspects, you spend a year playing against teams you should never be playing against. And going to a Libertadores final and losing it, you get to try another again. Once you're relegated, that's it. It's stuck in your club's history forever. We have 6 Libertadores. We lost 4. We're going to lose more, and we're going to win more. It's just part of the game. Getting to a final and winning or losing, it's just part of every sport. But Boca definitely got paid for that final. We got paid. Ask River how much they got paid for being relegated. They didn't. They nearly lost sponsors. They
Damn.
contemplated playing with a black jersey, so they never have to play with the traditional white jersey ever in second division. When they went back up to first division, they celebrated the resurrection. We didn't celebrate any resurrection for losing a Copa Libertadores. I mean, this debate will probably go on for the end of time, but I think obviously I say this as a Boca fan, but even neutrals will say it. It's not that much of a debate. It's so much worse for a club. Remove the name of the club, remove the colors, remove everything. It's so much worse to be relegated than to lose a Copa Libertadores final to your, eternal rivals. And it definitely sucks losing that final. But I was back up a couple days later, and we went back at it. The next Copa Libertadores, I think we got to the semifinals, and we crashed out to them again, unfortunately. But that's part of the game. It's part of the game, winning and losing. To be relegated, it's not part of our game.
It's different, right? So, because I was thinking the other day, thinking about the questions that I was going to ask you and stuff like that, and I was kind of brainstorming with my brother, about basically this question, and I was thinking, I was like how crazy is destiny, right? That the fact that, like, if we would have won that final, like if Boca would have won that final, I think the history of that rivalry should have, like, it would have been it. That's it. Like, that's it. There's no more rivalry. Like, you cannot. Because
we had a lot on our side,
yeah, you already,
and they managed to get that one thing on their side.
You were already on the negative. Like, you came into this final, like, looking for redemption for years and years and years of, like, potential cargadas and potential,
and they're still gonna have those cargadas. They'll have that forever
for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But destiny was like, you know what, we need to kind of even the things out. Let's just, we'll give them this. And I think it was like kind of like a gift from God, basically. Just be like, hey, you guys can have this one. It's not the same. It's similar. Y'all can celebrate it like it's the same. But I know a lot of River fans are going to be mad if they listen. But I think, they should be like, it's a gift from God to be able to be like, yeah, at least we have this one,
That final as a whole, what can I say? It should have never been played. It should have never been played where it was played, and it should have been played at River. Our numbers were really favorable on an international level in the Copa Libertadores against River, and the fact that we didn't get a chance to play in the Monumental. They'll say, "Oh, we didn't get the chance to play in the Monumental." No. We didn't get the chance to play in the Monumental. It was a tough one, but whatever. With the end,
it is what it is, right? But yeah, so now I kind of want to ask you, since you basically probably been watching all these summer games and stuff like that, what are some of the names and some, because we know that Boca basically is a little cuna, a little machine to build players and to send them to Europe and to become like huge stars. Probably a lot of the guys that we're watching today in Argentina came from Boca. A handful of them came, Paredes and a few of them, but some of this, I've been watching some of these summer games as well. I'm trying to get, actually getting into the podcast, listening to you guys and stuff like that. Kind of, I've been keeping up with Boca, but not like at the extent of how we've probably been keeping up with the Houston Dynamo, just because, this is home today. And it's, Argentina so far away and stuff like that, and that it's kind of hard to keep that connection, even though my dad still like wears a jersey every day and he wants to paint the house blue and yellow if he could, if the HOA doesn't, wouldn't be in between. Yeah, my dad's crazy. Like, my room in Argentina was blue and yellow, like everywhere. I had posters everywhere, like Palermo, Riquelme posters all over the room. Nice. My bed sheets, my curtains, like anything that you can think of was like blue and yellow in my house. But watching all these new kids play, what are some of the names, or what are some of the players, or what basically, like, who do you see that we should probably be keeping an eye for?
I can come up with four off the top of my head. I'll go from the defensive line and going forward. Gaston Avila, central defender. He's a center back who is really rough, very rugged. He's a tough defender. But his passing ability, his passing range is phenomenal. He's really good with the ball at his feet. Really, really good. This kid's going to be in the national team for sure in a couple of years. He's already with the the U20s, U21s. Moving up, Adam Varela, another player who's excellent with the ball at his feet. Very thin player. He's tough too. He's able to recover the ball really well at the middle of the park. But his passing range, his passing ability, the way he distributes and spreads the ball around the field is excellent. Another player in that same position who's probably behind him is Ezequiel Fernandez. Tremendous player. Tremendous. He's younger than Alan Varela, and some say he's probably even better and should be the starter, the starting number 5, starting center defensive mid. he just has it all. Really good defensively. He spreads the ball even better than Adam did, I think. A lot of people would agree with me. He's a really, really good player. I think he's 19, 18, 19. I think he's 19.
Yeah.
I think he was a captain of the reserve side. I saw him in Argentina a couple weeks ago when I went to play. I didn't go play. When I went to go see the team, I wish I got to play.
Right.
But Eki Fernandez is tremendous. He's another player with a huge future. All three of them, a huge future ahead of them. And then we have Ezequiel Ceballos up top. He's a left winger, even though sometimes Bataglia and our previous coaches have played him on the right wing. He is a left winger strictly. He loves those step overs. He's a really tricky player. He's able to shake a defender off really nicely. He has a nice hit. He can. I don't know if you saw the free kick that he scored last week or 2 weeks ago. Tremendous hit. He's just an all-around really solid winger. Really solid winger. He's a great passer. He's able to cross the ball very well. He's another player with a tremendous future ahead of him. I think those four, I would say off the top of my head. There's also El Golo Arco, who's a left back. I'm sorry. I think he's 17 or 18. I think he's 18. He's starting for the reserve, and some say he should even be playing Primera now. But another really good player with just so solid defensively and going forward, attacking wise, he's tremendous. He's one of those. He reminds me of Dani Alves. What can I say? He reminds me of like a classic Dani Alves, Jordi Alba. Those players from Europe. He's got a top future ahead of him as well.
Yeah. And what about the number 9? Did you mention him already? The guy that just scored a goal.
Vasquez. Yeah, how could I forget about him?
Yeah.
Vasquez has, I think, in total now his stats are 10 goals in 21 games, which is really good, especially for Argentina, especially for the age that he has. I think he's 20. But a lot of people compare him to Palermo. Obviously, nobody will be like Palermo. Nobody will ever touch those numbers again just because the way the sport is nowadays. You're really good and you just get sold off and you don't come back as early as Palermo did. But he's really good. Tremendous aerial threat. He wins a lot of headers. The goal he scored against San Lorenzo the other day is just a typical born striker sort of goal, how he has to adjust his body. He sees the ball coming and he knows just how quickly he has to move and pace himself and the position he has to get into and adjust his body to header the ball in precisely. It was a tremendous goal. Yeah. A goal that only a striker would score, not a winger, not a center back, not a midfielder, nobody, just a natural born goal scorer. And that's what he is. He's really good. And it's good that Benedetto's coming to help him out as well. And who knows, maybe we could see Benedetto Vasquez up top in like Brazil in the Copa Libertadores. That'd be tremendous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And adding to that goal that he scored, but like you were saying, the fact that he had to like go back because the ball was behind him, and then also one thing that I noticed is that you always want to put it across the goal because the goalkeeper is obviously going to be running one direction, so you want to put it the other way. And like those are the things that I was telling my dad. I was like, those are the things that you like. It's not that you learn, but like it just it just comes with it.
It's like an instinct. That goal was all instinct. All instinct. You know exactly how to handle that.
And you're like,
that's really good to see from such a young player.
He's a kid, you're like, and I was telling my brother, I was like, dude, give him 2-3 more years. That kid's gonna be in Europe, like Spain somewhere, just fucking heading in goals and stuff like that. But last one that I wanted to ask you, I don't want to keep you for too long. Name some players that because the other day you posted that your name came from a one of the greatest, which I want you to, exactly. I want you to tell that story if you can. I mean, it's short probably, but just name some players that you love watching. that like mystical players. I'm a Riquelme guy. Like that's like my idol. I always wanted to be like him. I had not even one. There you go.
I have him right over here.
That boy has a shrine. But tell me some players that you remember. Tell me some stories or some players that you.
So I obviously never watched Batistuta play, but I was named after Gabriel Batistuta. My dad admired him, especially during the 94 World Cup, which was here in the U.S. My dad went to go see a game. So my dad always loved him, and he wanted to name me after him. So it's a short story. But mythical players I obviously love watching. Riquelme, I grew up watching him. That I already mentioned, the 2007 Libertadores is just embedded in my head how good of a campaign he had. The 2012 Copa Libertadores as well. He played tremendously. He's just a phenomenal player. Definitely my favorite player of all time. I loved watching Guillermo. Guillermo Barraqueroto on the wing was crazy to watch. El Chelo Delgado too. Palacio, who unfortunately we didn't get to see him, but that with that classic little piece of hair.
I had the rat tail, by the way.
Did you? Rat tail, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
A lot of people did, especially in Argentina after him. Such an underrated player. I think that one of his craziest stats is he scored in every international final that he played. Every single one. He's so underrated. I think he should have a statue in the club, if I may say so myself. I think he should. Yeah. I love watching Cata Diaz at the back. Gago, loved watching Gago. Gago is one of those players who didn't have the classic characteristics of a Boca player, of a Boca midfielder. And I hate to even say this, but he's a typical River player. This is what River looks for. And, Gago was a tremendous player for us. Just like Poncio, a lot of River fans will say Poncio is a classic Boca player, and they had him. It's these different characteristics. It's weird. But I love watching Gago. I would say those are my favorite players. And of course, Maradona. How can I not even mention him?
Right. Yeah. Did you ever watch the Colombians? Like Chicho Serna, Bermudez,
yeah, I was really young.
Córdoba.
I was really young when they played. I know I watched them, but in terms of in my memory, I don't really remember. I was 5. Well, in '98, I was 3. When they won everything in 2000, I was 5. I know I watched those Libertadores games. I don't remember them. I don't remember them, but they're definitely classic players. Yeah, absolutely.
Tight. Yeah, I just like
more recent Colombians. Memories. I remember Vargas. Remember him?
Yep.
Vargas. Yep. I think there's another one that I'm missing. There's another more recent Colombian player that we had in like 2005, 2006.
Barrios, right?
Yeah, Barrios was later. He was in the 2017, 2018. Barrios was tremendous in midfield. He was really good. Now, my favorite Colombian, or at least in the past like couple of years, Campuzano. I love Campuzano.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
I think he's he started off tremendously. He had a little bit of a dip, and he's been taking, as of recently, a lot of heat from some Boca players. I don't understand, or Boca fans. I don't understand why. But I think Campuzano is a fantastic player. I love him.
All right, man. Well, to finish off, I want you to go ahead and just plug your show. Obviously, your show is a lot bigger than mine, but go ahead and just for the Houston audience or whoever is listening, so they can go, if they want to listen to some of the greatest, some information
absolutely.
about the greatest team out there. Where
so I run the Twitter page Boca in English. The handle is CABJ_English. And we do have a podcast. I've been really, really busy these past couple of months. So I haven't been able to record, but I'm hoping to record sometime next week. There's a season coming up. Talk about preseason. Talk about the transfer window. It's called the Boca in English podcast. You can find it on Apple Music, Google. All those big platforms. It's on Anchor as well. So yeah, that's where you can listen to me.
All right, Gabe. Well, thank you very much for taking some time, and I really appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing some stories and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll meet somewhere in the future and go to some games there in New York or something.
I've met some fellow Twitter users in the past.
Oh, nice.
Traveling around different states. So yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we do meet. We could share a beer. It's definitely been a good time. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, guys, don't forget QuattroQuattroDos on everything, and we'll see you guys on the next one. And we're done.